thought becomes architecture in your mind, layered, shifting, and defiant of linear understanding. While others remain caught in cycles that once defined you, your cognitive terrain has become a labyrinth without a map, evolving too swiftly for stagnant minds to chart or penetrate. Their old tools no longer work, their labels fall short. Where others falter in the noise, you glide through with seamless orientation, like an instrument attuned to frequencies no device can register. Each encounter, every moment of silence, each fork in the road deepens your perceptual field, transforming confusion into clarity before it ever touches your surface. You interpret existence through an internal mechanism that bypasses the circuitry of standard awareness. The blueprint of your being was encoded before matter solidified, chosen not by merit, but by a rare resonance that mirrored the original pulse of becoming. That frequency, hidden from most, is where your essence still speaks. Surrounded by an unseen system of deflection, your pathway remains untouchable to the schemes of the unconscious. The more force they apply, the less impact they find, like waves crashing against obsidian, only to scatter into mist. You're not just protected, you're beyond breach. There's a quality about you that escapes definition, something in the way the world folds around your presence that halts even the cynic. Some glimpse it and stop mid-thought. Others feel it in their chest, a pull they can't explain. The texts only whispered about such rare embodiments. Few ever carried the imprint. Woven into the fabric of unseen architecture, this awareness exists far beyond what common perception can grasp. While others repeat inherited thoughts like echoes bouncing in closed rooms, this consciousness stretches into chambers where light bends differently, where time and truth merge into a singular clarity not available to the masses. The entry into this realm wasn't accidental. It was arranged long before form took hold. A veil had to be worn first, to taste the density of forgetfulness, to operate within the illusion without shattering it. But that curtain thins now. Each hour brings a sharper edge to memory, not as nostalgia, but as a full ignition of dormant brilliance once shielded for protection. The observers, confused by their own stagnation, have tracked this signal for years without knowing why. Their fascination has rotted into envy. Drawn in by a brilliance that exposes more than it comforts, they squint through the glare of something they can't label or file away. In the shadows of their pretended kindness, duplicity breeds. Outward gestures of virtue conceal the corrosion inside, a festering instability barely disguised by practiced smiles. What is seen in public stands in stark contrast to what occurs once eyes turn away. The rehearsed nobility collapses behind closed walls. Underneath, they barter with bitterness, forming shaky alliances stitched together by nothing but their mutual discomfort with what they can't control. Their unity is thin, held only by the shared irritation that something brighter still stands. They send echoes of themselves, wrapped in imitation and static. These agents aren't built for confrontation. They arrive masked, deflecting with smiles and questions that lead nowhere. Appearances shimmer like riches, yet collapse on touch. Their supposed wealth is balance sheet fiction, their luxuries shadows propped by illusion, not foundation. Now comes the rewriting, not of history, but of identity. They scramble for the language of legacy, mimicking sacred tones without understanding their resonance. What was inherited through trials, they attempt to perform. But borrowed essence always slips. The notes sound close, but never exact. What is real cannot be impersonated, and what is forged will always echo hollow in rooms tuned for truth. Beneath the ornament of their image lies a hollow current, an engine without spark, sound without source. Their declarations collapse under scrutiny, like scaffolding with no foundation. Motion is mimicked, but nothing stirs. Their rituals yield no shift, no echo, no resonance. Intentions scatter before coalescing. Because motion void of essence never births form, it only leaves behind disillusionment. Dread takes root in their psyche, expanding like fog over land they once ruled. Despite schemes cast in secret, the progression remains untouched, continuing its climb beyond conceptual grasp. They react with noise, but time bends not for panic. The machinery of consequence turns with precision, indifferent to please, blind to pretense. What arrives cannot be deterred. Etched beyond language, this presence vibrates in a pattern unlike any other, etched before breath, before boundary. Some never register it, others glimpse without decoding. Yet those tuned to the deeper bandwidth recognize it instantly, not by logic, but by undeniable pull. It is a cipher only the initiated feel in their marrow. Where absence of light defined the terrain, perception had to mature without the luxury of surface guidance. Here, silence roared and direction dissolved. While sages once sought isolation to simulate such trial, this arrival was not by invitation. It came cloaked in apparent randomness, sharpening the senses that sight could not serve. Immersion in emotional waste did not deform the core. Surrounded by distortions designed to corrode, the internal chemistry adapted instead, compounding hurt into strength, refining chaos into depth. The decay around did not seep in. It was metabolized into momentum. Where collapse seemed inevitable, purification emerged, raw, unshakable, and irreversible. Foundations that once buffered every step have now vanished without notice. No guardrails remain. What follows is not collapse, but emergence. The shift from guided growth to sovereign alignment announces a passage not many navigate whole. This isn't decline, it's the rise into a level of self-command, where only the refined remain standing. Alterations at the root level have rewritten the blueprint. What once moved with friction now moves through veils untouched by normal constraints. Familiar concepts, like distance and sequence, dissolve around this field. Boundaries no longer anchor motion. New faculties awaken where the old rules have no say. The friction wasn't random, and neither was the pain. Pressure points weren't chosen by chance. They were designed to strike the architecture of your development precisely where transformation demanded it. Standard trials would have bent you the wrong way. Only tailored resistance could forge this exact outcome. From abandonment's wreckage, a rare chemistry emerged, appreciation, not for the cruelty itself, but for the expansion it triggered. This unexpected gratitude, this rise instead of retreat, marks a divergence from typical emotional mechanics. To craft clarity from betrayal without bitterness is not healing, it's ascension. Ingrained cycles fell to awareness sharpened beyond ancestral reach. Wounds passed hand to hand like inheritance found no host in this generation. What clung to bloodlines for eras met a boundary it couldn't pass, where awareness stood unflinching. The old agreements dissolved. The chain broke, and the echo with it. You will know them by their fruits. Matthew 7:16, a tree doesn't shout to prove it's alive. Its branches speak through harvest. In the same way, what you've planted in silence now grows in full view, not because of performance, but because of unwavering root in divine soil. They saw your quiet distance and called it isolation. But heaven saw your stance and called it covenant. You didn't step away from the world. You stepped into alignment that this world rarely understands. And what seemed like loneliness was actually preservation. What looked like small private choices will one day be recognized as the foundation of a freedom others inherit. You didn't choose the easy path. You chose the sacred one. And now, truth recognizes itself through you before a single word is spoken. Your presence doesn't read people, it reveals them. Layers built for show unravel the moment they enter your field. Not through suspicion, through clarity. It's not about figuring them out, it's about seeing what was always there. Their signals stumble where yours flows clean. Their stories don't land because they can't root in a soul that no longer holds confusion. You don't draw wisdom from books alone. You carry it. You didn't memorize this knowing. You remembered it. Insight arrives to you whole, not in fragments. Where others build systems, you embody the answer. Where others seek teachers, you walk as one, without declaring yourself. While some wander in circles, still learning through trial, you move with a rhythm that doesn't waste time. It's not arrogance, it's calibration. You know when to speak and when to let silence do the work. You see value where others see vacancy. You act when the wind is ready and wait when it's still. That's kingdom timing. That's heaven's logic. What unlocks for you is never random. It was there all along, waiting on resonance, waiting on alignment. And those who try to force their way into your field, they bounce off, not from spite, but from mismatch. You don't even need to block what doesn't belong. It simply can't hold in your frequency. You've become the kind of grounded that doesn't move for storms. You've become the kind of tuned that fake never fools. And as you walk this path, doors open before your feet touch them. Not because you knock louder, but because you carry the right key. Boundaries are not drawn, they are felt. Predatory instincts hesitate, not from morality, but from invisible structure they sense but cannot name. Any force pushing beyond what's permitted is met with sharp, energetic correction. The unseen structure of justice has already ruled, and implementation unfolds in silence, firm, final, and irreversible. What once felt like an endless silence surrounding accountability now gives way to a synchronized unraveling, justice cascading across layers of existence with precision. While their structures fracture under invisible pressure, stability locks into place around your field like machinery clicking into perfect alignment. The slow climb, forged by trust, now towers above once dominant frameworks, collapsing in rapid succession. The split is undeniable. What they buried beneath elaborate projection is no longer hidden. Delusions peel away in public daylight. Secrets they thought insulated now spill through malfunctioning systems, missteps, and circumstances they cannot manipulate. Exposure accelerates, and no patchwork of excuses can keep pace with the unraveling. Apparent security evaporates. What looked impenetrable dissolves without warning. The wealth they filtered away dissipates through channels no longer under their command. Positions of control transform into locked gates. Doors once held open to deny others now refuse them entry. Loopholes close, and engineered advantage reverses course. The confrontation ends before it begins. Their plans, conceived within limited grids, collapse before the first move. The awareness shaping your actions operates outside the scope of their understanding, far beyond anything their logic can track. Intention slices through complexity, like signal through static, bypassing entire layers of falsehood with seamless clarity. Truth registers before language catches up, It's not a process, it's a resonance. Information arrives unfiltered by distortion, making calculation irrelevant. This recognition doesn't compare or decode. It perceives. Every word carries frequency far beyond syntax, adjusting the field of those attuned enough to feel it. Each message is a layered transmission, surface content wrapped around deeper activations. To the average listener, it sounds simple, but to those aligned, it's an internal ignition. Direction, insight, and shift occur in tandem. What others attempt through effort manifest here through precision, willed through dimensions as easily as sound cuts silence. Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. Before you were born, I set you apart. Jeremiah 1:5. You don't show up by accident, you show up by assignment. Just like a lighthouse doesn't apologize for shining when storms roll in, you were built to stand tall in moments others still don't understand. The blueprint in your soul wasn't drafted last minute. It was established before time took shape. And now, the gears of divine timing click into place around you because the moment has finally met the one it was made for. Reality bends around what you carry. Things that take others years to figure out collapse into clarity the moment you walk in. That's not luck, that's alignment. That's what it looks like when someone stops trying to prove and starts simply becoming. The final residue of resistance has melted, and with it, the fog of hesitation that once clouded your expansion. Your soul doesn't need convincing. It's already aware of the contract. All that's happening now is the unveiling. You've got divine circuitry inside you. No tool on earth can measure it. This isn't charisma, it's configuration. Deep inside, beyond skin, beyond blood, beyond bone, there are radiant strands of origin code that only light recognizers can perceive. This isn't about ego, it's about function. You don't shine to be seen. You shine because that's your signal. And those tuned to the right frequency, they know exactly what you are when you walk in. You didn't just stumble into this. You've been wired for it since before this life began. What's waking up in you now is part of a larger harmony. Your timing syncing with the pulse of the planet and the rhythm of your own becoming. And when those two align, strange things happen. Patterns repeat, symbols return. Connections spark in places you didn't expect. You're not imagining it, it's orchestration. This path you're on, it has no map. And that's because you're not here to follow trails. You're here to walk straight into uncharted territory and turn it into template. This isn't a path for the mind to figure out. It's for the soul to recognize. And yours knows. It knows because it helped carve it. You're not just waking up, you're lighting up. And when you do, the grids shift. You change more than yourself. You recalibrate the field for others. That's the role of a carrier. Not a student, not even a teacher, but a living code. You don't just evolve, you cause evolution. That's what being chosen really means. With great capacity arrives exacting stewardship. Integration is no longer optional, it is the fulcrum of effectiveness. With each expansion, precision must match power. What once masqueraded as dominance now disbands before you, revealing its hollowness. The pressure to dim has lost all leverage. The light now holds court. What once appeared as unified force now fractures along lines they refuse to acknowledge. Agreements forged in secrecy collapse under frequencies they cannot adapt to. When the current rises, alignment held together by mutual distortion begins to splinter. Their shared motives, once enough to bind them, dissolve under exposure they never prepared for. Each effort to disrupt your movement rebounds with sharp precision. What was launched in concealment returns not just returned, but amplified, targeted at their weakest coordinates. Cause and effect, long delayed, now surge forward in perfect timing. What was once philosophy is now direct experience. They learn through impact what they mocked in theory. The shift now removes you from the battlefield entirely. There is nothing left to defend. Movement transitions to stillness, not as retreat, but as authority. No longer a participant in resistance, but a calibrated witness to what unfolds on cue. What was built in quiet, out of view, and beyond praise, now arrives fully formed, without need for announcement. The unseen groundwork has begun surfacing. Principles once anchored only in energy now form tangible frameworks. What was internal knowledge now becomes logistical reality, systemic, grounded, and impervious to temporary downturns. Access points emerge in unlikely places. The improbable becomes navigable not through force, but through attunement. Structures once locked begin to shift open. What seemed immovable is now fluid. Obstacles recede without effort, not because they weakened, but because time finally aligned. While you waited, the equation was adjusting itself across planes you couldn't yet enter. What manifests now does so not by chance, but through orchestration that left no thread misaligned. Give, and it shall be given unto you. Good measure, pressed down and shaken together and running over. Luke 6:38. That quiet obedience you walked in, it wasn't wasted. Every seed you planted in silence is now breaking the soil in places you never expected to see fruit. While others broadcasted and begged to be seen, you trusted the assignment to speak for itself. And now the return shows up pressed down, shaken together, running over, not through striving, but through spiritual precision. What was invisible is now undeniable. You didn't force your way in. You flowed. And in that flow, your name traveled without promotion. The alignment you kept in the dark is now opening doors in rooms you never stepped into. Invitations arrive without your reaching. Endorsements show up without your asking. That's what happens when light meets the network designed for it. It finds a way through every locked system, not by effort, by truth. What's happening in you now doesn't obey earthly pacing. While others measure progress in days and deadlines, your regeneration rides on divine calibration. Healing doesn't crawl, it leaps. Alignment accelerates what effort can't produce. And where medicine or time once held answers, your soul now reclaims authority. Restoration is no longer external. It's an internal synchronization, too advanced for logic, too true to deny. You're not just building for today. You're laying foundations that generations will inherit. Your integrity is scaffolding. Your courage is blueprint. Your silence is scrollwork on timelines you'll never walk, but will forever shape. Someone you'll never meet will stand under a roof you built in the unseen, and they'll find shelter, purpose, and clarity there. This is legacy by spirit. And as this new design forms, false connections begin to fall away. Not with drama, with revelation. No argument, just contrast. Anything misaligned can't hold. Anything unanchored can't stay. What once felt sentimental now feels suffocating. The assignment is too holy to carry what can't move at your pace. Release is no longer grief, it's worship. This is why discernment sharpens. You're not closing the gate in arrogance, you're protecting the signal. Not every frequency belongs in your field. Not every word deserves weight. Not every voice holds instruction. Your responsibility isn't to be open to everything, it's to stay aligned with what was always meant to move through you. And in this clarity, your true inheritance begins. Truth does not require permission. When met with misunderstanding or distortion, your stance need not wobble. Collective agreement never defines reality. It simply outlines shared limits. The highest form of response is non-negotiable embodiment. Your alignment, lived without apology, becomes the undeniable answer to every lesser version of the story. Elevation becomes the loudest statement, surpassing any need for defense or explanation. The stillness you carry communicates what arguments never could. Expansion radiates unmistakably. Contentment hums louder than any confrontation. Your frequency resolves what conflict tried and failed to dismantle. Every step forward confirms not just personal triumph, but a wider energetic reclamation in motion. When one field stabilizes, it sends ripples far beyond the origin point. Your alignment transmits across the networked web of rising consciousness, strengthening counterparts without effort. While individual milestones seem personal, they synchronize with global echoes, dislodging false fronts in distant corners as coherence spreads invisibly yet powerfully. As resonance increases, structures built on performance lose their grip. What once loomed with authority begins to flicker and fray. Systems upheld by illusion falter under energetic pressure they weren't designed to endure. In every direction, we witness the surfacing of buried truths, undeniable now that the speed of light has surpassed the density of deceit. What was once manipulated reorients itself back to original configuration. Realms ruled by misdirection shift toward blueprint integrity. Archives correct, sciences stretch, beliefs dissolve, and healing reclaims forgotten roots. Your flourishing doesn't just inspire, it evidences what possibility looks like when spiritual laws are embodied, not just spoken. Visible outcomes challenge former cynics to reconsider what they dismissed. Your path, once doubted, becomes the threshold they now study. What began as personal repair becomes part of a planetary reset. Each layer of reclamation expands outward, mirroring in miniature the broader transformation of collective patterns. Every resolution within your field ripples through unseen linkages. Whether or not it is consciously recognized, each restoration contributes to the grand alignment unfolding across timelines. We are not only witnesses, we are anchors of a turning tide, present at the edge of something ancient and utterly new, converging in real time. To arrive here, at this precise inflection point, signals the result of lifetimes spent honing resonance for a task only few would ever be equipped to carry. What once appeared as isolated preparation now reveals itself as sacred alignment. The brightness carried individually now merges into a unified frequency vast enough to dissolve what was once unreachable by any single presence. Encoded within your essence is a tonal key essential to the stabilization of a broader awakening field. Your presence doesn't merely add, it completes. The emergence of this collective isn't coincidental. It's fulfillment of patterns whispered across centuries, recorded through symbolic memory and preserved in spiritual lineage awaiting ignition at this hour. This shift is not symbolic, it's tactile. What was metaphor has materialized. The momentum built by generations of hidden labor now propels awakened consciousness through thresholds long held as immutable. Passageways sealed by density now yield to those carrying the proper harmonic charge. The transition no longer waits. True victory manifests not by disruption, but by sustaining alignment in the face of distortion. What falls away does so not through opposition, but through outgrowing. Reality bends to those whose frequency holds regardless of condition. Systems anchored in outdated coding dissolve as your coherence stabilizes a new field without a word of protest. No experience was misplaced. Every moment, no matter how harsh, was calibration. Timing, delay, rupture, and renewal all served a complex architecture beyond comprehension at the time. Now, as the arc completes, those scattered fragments reveal themselves as a perfect design, one forged through fire to endure what comes next. This is the turning. What you once held quietly now demands embodiment without disguise. There is no space left for contraction, no reason to delay. This reality was built for you to step into, not as an echo of former selves, but as the exact expression that was written into the origin code from the start.